Your account is past due, $240. I paid Friday. Look at my phone. No payment, no entry.
Mom, am I bad?
No, baby. You did nothing wrong.
Where did this rule come from?
Head office. The new owner sent it.
I'm the new owner.
A billionaire entered one of his newly acquired daycare centers and found a single mother being turned away in front of her child. His name was Romeo Cameron. He ran Cameron Capital, a $2.5 billion investment fund with 900 employees and offices in 3 states. One order from him could erase a balance or change a rule across 41 daycare centers. Yet, he did not move when the woman at the front desk raised her voice. Lena John stood at the counter with one hand around Cody's small fingers. Cody wore a red dinosaur backpack and held a paper sun made from yellow card. 12 parents waited behind them. 2 teachers moved children toward the classroom doors. The front desk clerk said Lena's account showed a past due balance of $240. The child could not enter until the full amount was paid. She did not lower her voice. Every parent in the lobby heard the number. Lena showed her bank app. The payment date and amount were both clear. "It left my account Friday," Lena said. "Please look at the number. I cannot miss another shift." Clerk glanced at the screen, then pointed back at her own monitor. "The system says unpaid. No payment, no entry. My manager warned me twice already. If I miss today, I may lose my job." Cody tugged his mother's sleeve. His eyes moved toward a classroom window where another boy was stacking blue blocks. "Mom, am I bad?" The question stopped the room more than Clerk's voice had. One father looked down at his phone. A woman near the door pulled her daughter closer. Nobody stepped forward. Lena knelt and fixed Cody's backpack strap. She told him he had done nothing wrong. Then she stood and asked for the branch director. Clerk said the director was busy. She pointed to a laminated sheet beside the card reader. Any unpaid account lost access after 7 days. There were no payment plans, branch appeals, or temporary passes. If you cannot afford care, you should make other plans. Lena's face changed, but she did not beg. She looked once at the parents behind her. Then she took Cody's hand and walked toward the door. Romeo remained near the entrance with a folder under his arm. He was not still because Cody had started to cry. He was still because of the sign above the front desk, a Cameron Capital Company, his name. Cameron Capital had bought Bright Steps Learning Centers 1 month earlier. The deal covered 41 branches in 3 states. Romeo had signed the purchase documents at a long table while lawyers moved pages toward him one by one. He remembered the final number, $91 million. He remembered the champagne after the closing. He did not remember any discussion about children being denied at the door. The folder in his hands held transfer papers for this exact branch. He had come without a public visit because he liked to see new assets before managers prepared for him. That was one of his oldest rules. See what you own with your own eyes. Now he had seen it. The lobby moved forward as if Lena had never stood there. Clerk called the next parent. A teacher led 6 children past the window while they held a rope with small handles. An alphabet song played from another room. Romeo could have ended the problem in seconds. He could have shown his card, paid the balance, or ordered Clerk to open Cody's account, but that would have fixed one morning while hiding the reason it happened. He walked to the desk after the line cleared. Nobody at the branch knew his face. To Clerk, he was only a tall black man in his 50s with gray in his beard and a plain folder. Romeo asked what happened to children whose accounts were blocked. Clerk explained that the child stayed home until the balance reached 0. The branch could not accept screenshots, promises, or partial payments. "Zero tolerance," she said. It came from head office. Romeo asked when the rule started. Clerk said 3 weeks earlier, soon after the sale. Staff had been warned that any override could cost them their jobs. She showed him the policy sheet. Late one day meant a warning. Late 7 days meant the child was refused entry. No payment plans were allowed. At the bottom, small print named Cameron Capital Management, LLC. Romeo read the words twice. Head office meant his office. The new owners meant him.
The clerk blamed head office. Romeo had just discovered that head office meant him.
Are you dropping off or picking up? Clerk asked. Neither. Romeo placed the folder on the counter. These are for your director. Tell her they came from the new owners. He gave no name. Outside, Lena was already half a block away. Cody rode on her hip with his face against her coat. Romeo followed at a distance. The bus stop stood across a wide road. Lena reached it as the bus pulled away. She lifted one hand, but the driver did not stop. The next bus would come in 26 minutes. Lena placed Cody on the bench. Then she opened her work schedule on her phone. A red warning crossed the top of the screen. Third attendant strike may end employment. Her shift began in 40 minutes. The grocery store was 11 miles away. She called a neighbor named Sayersa Potts. Romeo heard only Lena's side. She asked whether Sayersa could keep Cody until 6. The answer came quickly, and Lena's shoulders dropped. 2 more calls failed. One person was already working. Another had a sick child. The third call went to voicemail. Cody rubbed his nose with his sleeve. He asked whether he could go to work with her. Lena looked at the bus schedule, then at the time. You're coming with Mama, she said. You must stay quiet. Like hide and seek? Exactly. The next bus pulled to the curb. Lena counted coins from her pocket before lifting Cody up the steps. Romeo heard her whisper that 4 late minutes could become strike 3. The doors closed. The bus moved away. Romeo stood alone by the bench. He had watched a daycare policy push a mother toward a second danger in less than 30 minutes. He called his assistant, Esme Forbes. He canceled his morning meetings and asked for the complete Bright Steps purchase file. He also ordered her to find every memo tied to the new payment rule. Esme asked whether something was wrong. I don't know yet, Romeo said. That is the problem. He watched the bus disappear around the corner. Then he asked Esme to find where Lena John worked. Romeo returned to the daycare instead of going to his car. He removed his company badge from the folder and placed it inside his coat. He needed to see how the branch acted when nobody important was watching. Clerk was stapling forms when he came back. Romeo introduced himself only as Romeo and said he worked with the regional office on post-acquisition reviews. It was not a full lie. Cameron Capital had no regional manager there that week. No branch employee had met the ownership team. Clerk sat straighter. She said nobody had warned them about a review. That is why the review matters, Romeo said. The branch director's office smelled of coffee, crayons, and old paper. Leonie Higgins sat behind a desk covered with folders. She had run the branch for 11 years. When Romeo mentioned the regional office, Leonie closed the door. I have emailed head office for 2 weeks, she said. Nobody gives me a real answer. Start with the payment policy. Registration fees doubled after the sale. Then came a monthly supply fee. We also lost the right to give families more time. The software now blocked any child tied to an overdue account. Branch leaders could not override the block. A failed attempt created a report for head office. Romeo asked how many children had been denied that week. Leonie opened a folder and handed him 1 page. 10 names. The youngest was 3. The oldest was 5. One family owed $60. Another owed $95. Cody John was the 10th child. I didn't turn them away, Leonie said. The policy did. Her voice cracked, but she kept speaking. Before the sale, the branch had worked with families. Parents paid on Friday. used short plans, or brought part of the balance. Nobody had become rich, but children stayed in care. Now, every branch received a weekly collection score. Low scores could reduce staffing. Continued weakness could place a center on a closure list. Leonie feared losing 23 workers and care for 86 children. That fear kept her obeying a rule she hated. She gave Romeo the head office memo. It described overdue balances as revenue leakage and ordered immediate refusal of children from unpaid accounts. "Read the last paragraph," Leonie said. "If I let one child through, they can fire me. I have 23 workers here. What am I supposed to risk first, my staff or somebody's child?" At the bottom was a name Romeo knew well: Gordon Graves, Chief Operating Officer, Cameron Capital Portfolio Services. Gordon had worked beside Romeo for 19 years. He reviewed every purchase and managed the numbers after each closing. Romeo asked whether Lena had caused trouble before the sale. Leonie shook her head. Cody had attended since he was 2. Lena paid on time and never demanded special treatment. Something changed on her account after the ownership transfer. Leonie could not see what it was because head office had removed branch access to detailed billing records. Romeo asked for copies of all 10 family records. Leonie made them without another question. As he left, she stopped him at the door. "Tell head office we are not numbers down here." Romeo looked at the folder in his hand. It now held transfer papers, 10 children's names, and a memo written by his closest executive. He had entered the branch to see what he owned. He was leaving with proof that what he owned had begun hurting people. Romeo read the Bright Steps acquisition file during the drive downtown. The purchase price appeared on the first page. The projected margin gain appeared on the fourth. A section called Revenue Integrity Measures began on page 38. One short bullet required strict enforcement of delinquent account exclusions. It sat between supply purchasing and staff scheduling. Romeo had seen the deck before the deal closed. He remembered eating a sandwich while Gordon presented the numbers. He did not remember that bullet. His phone buzzed before he reached the next light. Esme had found Lena's employer. She worked at the Fresh Market on Dalton Avenue as a cashier and stock clerk. Esme had also found the formal approval sheet for the new operating policies. Gordon had written the payment memo. The fund still required a managing partner's approval. Romeo told her to send the page immediately. The file arrived while his car waited at a red light. Romeo opened it and scrolled to the final page. Gordon Graves had signed on the left. Romeo Cameron had signed on the right. The blue mark was his own. He had probably made it during a Friday signing session, while Esme placed yellow tabs in front of him. "Sign here. Initial there. Move to the next page." Cars began to honk when the light changed. Romeo remained still until another driver pulled around him. Cody had cried because Romeo had treated a policy like one more page in a stack. Romeo drove toward the Fresh Market. He told his driver to stop 2 blocks away. Then he walked into the store and took an empty cart. The building had bright ceiling lights and pale floors. A line of registers crossed the front. Lena stood at register 4 in a green apron. She had made it to work. 4 minutes late, according to the clock above customer service. Her hands moved fast. She scanned food, packed bags, and called the next customer. Nothing in her face showed what had happened at the daycare. Through the break room window, Romeo saw Cody sitting at a small table. The red backpack rested beside him. He colored on scrap paper with 3 crayons. For 20 minutes, the plan worked. Then Cody opened the break room door. He carried a drawing toward his mother and called her name. "Cody, back inside, baby," Lena said while she kept scanning. Store manager Curtis Ingram heard the child before Cody reached the counter. He crossed the floor in a short-sleeved shirt with his name printed above the pocket. 6 customers waited in Lena's line. 2 workers stocked a nearby display. Curtis could have spoken quietly. He chose not to. "This is a store, not a babysitting service." "My daycare refused him this morning," Lena said. Please let him sit in the break room. I will find another plan at lunch. Children are not allowed back there. You were also 4 minutes late. You know why I was late? I know you already have 2 strikes, Curtis said. This makes 3. Cody stood beside the register holding his drawing. Curtis pointed toward him as if he were part of the violation. Front office after your shift. We will decide if you still work here. He walked away while every customer watched. The old man at the front of the line studied his soup cans. A young couple began reading the label on a candy bar. Nobody defended Lena. She placed the next item over the scanner. Beep. Her face stayed still. Her hands did not. Romeo gripped the handle of his cart. He wanted to cross the floor, show his name, and challenge Curtis in front of the same witnesses. He could have bought the groceries in every cart. He could have called the store's owner. He could have offered Lena enough money to walk out. He did none of those things. A public rescue might protect her pride for 1 hour while taking control away from her. It would also let Romeo escape the harder fact. The chain from the daycare to this register began with his signature. Romeo left before Lena saw him. In the parking lot, he called Esme and asked for an emergency board meeting at 1. He wanted Gordon, the fund counsel, the senior partners, and the head of data services in the room. Esme asked what subject to place on the calendar. Romeo looked back through the glass. Cody had returned to the break room. Lena was still scanning. Bright steps, he said, and my failure to read. At noon, Romeo entered Cameron Capital's downtown tower. The lobby walls displayed photographs of companies the fund had bought and improved. The word improved appeared often. It meant higher sales, lower costs, fewer workers, and stronger returns. It did not show children at locked doors. Romeo took the elevator to the 40th floor. He carried Leonie's list in one pocket and the approval page in the other. The boardroom had 12 chairs and a wide view of the city. Gordon sat at Romeo's right, where he had sat for 19 years. Amanda Kane, the fund's lawyer, opened her laptop. Thalia Irwin, the oldest partner at the table, placed a pen beside her report. Gordon began with good news. Bright Steps collections rose 14% in 1 month, he said. Late accounts are down by half. The revenue program is working. Describe the program in plain words, Romeo said. Gordon paused. If a family does not pay, the child does not attend. Gyms do it. Landlords do it. Private schools do it. Romeo placed the laminated policy on the table. Then he added the head office memo and the list of 10 children. The room became quiet. He described the morning at Fairfield. He told them about Cody's question, Lena's bus, and the child hidden in a grocery store break room. Gordon asked why Romeo had visited a branch without notice. Romeo ignored the question. He unfolded the approval page and placed it where everyone could see both signatures. I approved it, Romeo said. I did not read it. That is worse, not better. Nobody reached for the page. Romeo admitted that a woman had been shamed because he had treated page 38 as a small detail. He said the policy did not arrive from a distant machine. It came through his office and carried his name. Gordon defended the rule. The chain had weak collections before the sale, and the fund had promised investors an 11% margin improvement. Did you know children were being refused in front of other families? Romeo asked. Branch staff control how policy is delivered, Gordon said. We cannot manage the tone of every front desk. That answer moved blame downward, exactly where the company had placed every hard choice. Leonie feared losing her branch. Clerk feared losing her job. Lena feared losing her shift. Cody had no power at all. Gordon spoke for several minutes about responsibility to investors. Pension plans, retirement accounts, and public funds had trusted Cameron Capital with their money. You start making exceptions because one child cries, he said, and you are not running a fund. Romeo looked at the 10 names. He asked Thalia to estimate how many children might be blocked across all 41 branches if Fairfield's rate held. She calculated near 400. Gordon called that estimate incomplete. Romeo called it enough. Amanda then explained the legal obstacle. Two investors signed side agreements tied to this operating model, she said. Collection standards are part of the approved plan. Meridian alone committed $300 million. If they leave, others may follow. How long to change it safely? Romeo asked. Weeks, maybe a month. A month could mean 200 more children at the door. Romeo ordered Amanda to begin unwinding the rule. He also canceled every threat against directors who offered families time. No branch leader would be fired for allowing a child inside while the review continued. That order would go out in writing before the meeting ended. Gordon said quiet changes would protect the fund. He advised Romeo to pay Lena's balance, correct the worst cases, and avoid turning one ugly event into a public crisis. Romeo folded the approval page and returned it to his pocket. Quiet is how this reached the door. He ended the meeting. At 6:15 that evening, Lena sat across from Curtis Ingram in the Fresh Market's front office. Cody waited outside on a bench near the lockers. Curtis placed a pink form on the desk. It listed lateness, an unauthorized child, and failure to follow workplace rules. Lena explained again that the daycare had rejected Cody because of a disputed payment. Curtis said the store could not manage her personal problems. He had already entered the third strike. Her job ended that day. Lena signed where he pointed. She did not cry in his office. She collected Cody, her coat, and the last pay stub from her locker. She did not cry on the bus either. She looked through the window and calculated what remained. Rent was due in 9 days. Her final check would not cover it. The daycare still wanted $240. Yet without work, childcare seemed impossible to pay for. Without childcare, finding another job became harder. Cody leaned against her arm. "Mama, are you sad?" "Mama is thinking." He asked whether she was thinking about Zachary. Lena said yes because that answer was easier. Their apartment building had tired brick, a broken elevator, and 4 flights of stairs. Lena opened the mailbox while Cody held the rail. A white envelope sat between an electric bill and a pizza flyer. Bright Steps Learning Centers. The letter called her account formally delinquent. A $75 enforcement fee had raised the balance to $315. If she failed to pay within 10 days, the debt would go to collections. The mark could remain on her credit file for 7 years. Lena read the notice twice under the stairwell light. Then she folded it small and placed it in her pocket. She carried Cody up 4 flights because he was tired. Her arms did not begin to shake until his bedroom door was closed and his nightlight was on. Someone knocked on Lena's door at 7:40 that evening. She looked through the peephole and saw Romeo standing several feet back. He held no flowers, food, or large envelope. His coat still looked too expensive for the building. Lena opened the door on the chain. Romeo gave his full name and said Cameron Capital owned Bright Steps. She held the folded collection notice through the gap. "Then this belongs to you." Romeo said he had been in the lobby that morning. He had seen Cody turned away and had learned that the rule came from his company. "Which part will you repair?" Lena asked. "My son crying in front of his friends? Me losing my job? Or the fee you added to money I never owed? You were fired? Today, men like you treat guilt like another bill. You write a check, feel clean, and leave before the next family gets hurt. We are just a story to people like you." Romeo let every word remain between them. "You are right about the checkbook," he said. "A check would fix my feeling. It would not fix your problem." He explained what Leonie had told him. Lena had paid on time for years. Her account changed after Cameron Capital moved billing to head office. Romeo asked permission to inspect the complete record. He promised no favor and no private deal. He wanted to know what his system had done. The chain stayed in place, but Lena did not close the door. "Write this correctly," Lena said. "September was paid on the 3rd, October was paid on the 2nd, November was cash on the 1st because the app failed." She still had the paper receipt. Every receipt stayed in a shoebox. "I told the branch. I told the phone line. Since your company came, the phone line is a robot." Romeo wrote every detail in a small notebook. "If you find something, put it in writing," Lena said. "Not a favor, a correction." He agreed. The deadbolt turned after she closed the door. Romeo remained in the hallway for several seconds. He had visited hundreds of companies, studied thousands of reports, and signed deals worth more than some cities spent in a year. Lena had reduced his duty to one clear demand: find the truth, name the error, correct the record. Romeo sat in his car outside the building and opened Leone's list. He called the first family. A father said his daughter had been denied over $95. "I paid it in cash before Christmas," he said. "The app was down. I still have the receipt. You tell me how that works." The second call reached a grandmother raising 2 boys. "I paid twice to stop the letters," she said. "The second payment came from my medicine money." The third parent was a nurse who worked nights. She had also paid cash during the same week the app failed. 3 families, 3 paper receipts, 3 debts that appeared after the ownership change. Romeo called the remaining numbers. 4 answered. Every account had some kind of confusion. One family had a payment posted to the wrong child. Another lost a discount promised under the old system. 2 more had cash records that vanished. By the 7th call, Romeo no longer believed Lena's case was rare. Cruelty from one clerk would have been easy to remove. This was different. A process had created the same harm many times without any employee needing to choose it. Romeo called Esme and asked her to wake Ashton McLaughlin, the head of data services. He ordered a full review of the billing migration. Esme brought food to Romeo's home office before midnight. Nobody ate it. Amanda joined by phone. Ashton shared his screen from another city. He opened Lena's current account, then searched the archived Bright Step system. The old system showed a cash payment on November 1st, $240. Receipt number 8841. The new system showed nothing. Ashton traced the migration code. "Electronic payments used one format," he said. "Cash payments entered at branches used another." The transfer recognized the first code and dropped the second. "How many accounts?" Ashton searched Fairfield first. 6 of the 10 blocked families had lost valid cash payments. Then he searched all 41 centers. 211 families. Nobody spoke for several seconds. The system had chased those families for money they had already paid. Some received fees. Some paid twice. Some lost care. Romeo asked whether Lena had ever owed the $240. Ashton said no. Her debt was not late, disputed, or forgiven. It had never existed. Amanda explained that the discovery changed the legal problem. The fund could correct false balances without breaking investor agreements. No investor could demand collection of money that was not owed. But 211 false debts created another risk. Regulators, lawsuits, and public claims could follow. Gordon would likely argue for private refunds. Account-by-account settlements could limit attention. Romeo looked at Lena's folded notice on his desk. A quiet correction might erase the number from a screen. It would not tell families that they had been right. "Quiet is not a correction," he said. He ordered the team to identify every missing payment by morning. Duplicate payments would also be traced. Amanda was to prepare a public disclosure plan. Esme would arrange a call with Meridian Pension Trust, the investor most likely to object. Bright Steps already had a public event scheduled for Thursday at Fairfield. Gordon planned to celebrate the new ownership and improved services. Local news had accepted an invitation. Parents had been invited. Romeo decided the event would continue. The subject would change. Gordon called at 7 the next morning. "Fix the records, refund the extra payments, call it a technical failure," he said. "A public confession will bring lawyers and scare investors. 900 workers depend on this chain." Romeo listened until he finished. The computer created false balances. Gordon's policy turned them into locked doors. Romeo's signature gave that policy power. "Handle it quietly," Gordon said. "Quiet is how this happened." Romeo ended the call. At 9, Brianna Orr joined the Meridian call. She managed pension money for county employees, school workers, and bus drivers. Romeo described the false debts and the zero-tolerance rule. He told her the truth would be announced Thursday. Brianna warned that canceling an approved collection plan could affect the investment model. Then she asked one question. Had the policy punished families for balances created by Cameron Capital's own software? Romeo said yes. The answer changed the call. Meridian did not want its name tied to phantom daycare debt. Brianna allowed the correction, but gave no broad promise about future returns. "Fix it loud enough that we can point at it." It was not forgiveness. It was room to act. Romeo accepted it. He returned to Lena's building that afternoon. This time, she opened the door without the chain. Cody was asleep in the next room. A cartoon played quietly on the television. Romeo handed Lena one plain page. It listed her November payment, receipt number, migration error, corrected balance, and reversed fee. At the bottom, Cameron Capital accepted responsibility. Lena read the page twice. Her shoulders lowered slightly. "I told them for 3 weeks." Romeo said 210 other families had also been telling the truth. He explained that the company would announce the full error at Fairfield on Thursday. The correction would happen before the same parents and workers who had seen Cody denied. Lena said Thursday was meant for calls to temp agencies. A corrected account did not return her job. Romeo admitted that it did not. He said he had not forgotten the store, but he would not use another quick favor to hide a larger failure. He offered her an invitation to the public meeting. She did not have to speak or forgive him. "It happened to you in front of witnesses," he said. "The correction should too." Lena took the invitation. She did not promise to attend. Thursday arrived gray and cold. Cameron Capital's event team placed a podium outside the Fairfield branch. A blue banner announced a new chapter for Bright Steps families. 60 folding chairs faced the entrance. Coffee waited on 2 tables. A local news camera stood near the front. A second crew came after hearing that the owner planned an unexpected statement. Parents filled the chairs. Some carried old bills and paper receipts. Others had come only to hear why so many accounts changed after the sale. Leonie stood near the door in her best cardigan. Clerk remained behind the front desk. Both women looked as if they expected blame to fall on them. Gordon waited beside the event banner in a charcoal coat. He had prepared remarks about growth, safer buildings, and modern services. He no longer had the microphone. Romeo arrived at 9:52. He spoke briefly with Amanda and Esme, then looked over the chairs. Lena sat in the third row with Cody on her lap. He wore the red dinosaur backpack. She met Romeo's eyes once and gave no sign of support. That was fair. At 10:02, Romeo walked to the podium without notes. The banner moved in the wind behind him. Romeo gave his name and said his fund had bought Bright Steps the previous month. Ownership made the harm his responsibility. He described the new payment rule. Any balance shown by the system could block a child from entering. 10 children had been denied at Fairfield in 5 days. Hundreds more could have faced the same door. He pointed toward the entrance. One child was stopped there over $240. Several parents turned toward Lena. She kept one arm around Cody. Romeo said the balance had never been real. A murmur moved through the chairs. Romeo explained that electronic payments transferred, but many cash payments did not. The software erased proof from 211 family accounts. Families then received warnings, fees, and collection notices for money already paid. Some paid twice because they needed care. Others lost work. One grandmother used medicine money to clear a false debt. A nurse spent weeks arguing with a robot. Romeo told every affected parent that the company, not the families, had been wrong. A woman in the second row covered her mouth. A father near the aisle lifted a folded receipt above his head. Romeo did not call the problem only a computer error. Software created the false balances, but people created the rule that punished children. He removed the approval page from his coat. The cameras focused on it. 2 signatures sat at the bottom. One belonged to Gordon Graves. The other belonged to Romeo. Gordon Graves wrote this policy, Romeo said, but my signature gave it power. I did not read what I signed. That does not excuse me. The crowd stayed silent. A child was shamed before his friends. His mother carried him to work and lost her job that evening. I skipped one page. She was not allowed to skip one rule. Romeo announced that the zero-tolerance policy ended at all 41 centers. No child would be refused over debt. If a family fell behind, the child would stay while adults made a plan. Branch directors would regain the power to work with parents. All 211 false debts would be erased. Every related fee would disappear. Anyone who paid twice would receive that money back, plus the same amount again. Fairfield's 10 families would receive 1 free month. Parents began speaking at once. Some cried. Others checked the people beside them. Romeo raised one hand and continued. Third, no branch director or front desk worker will carry the blame for a rule written above them. Lena had warned head office for 2 weeks. Nobody answered her. Romeo turned toward the door. You were the only person above that front desk trying to stop this. Lena removed her glasses. She looked down while the parents applauded her. Fourth, the executive who wrote this rule later advised me to hide the failure. Gordon Graves will no longer control Bright Steps or any family service company in this fund. Gordon stared at Romeo across the chairs. 19 years of work stood between them. He said nothing. He turned, walked to his car, and left before the questions began. Romeo refused to turn the event into a story about one rich man becoming kind. My company caused this harm. These corrections are duties, not gifts. A private apology would protect my name. The truth protects your names. He stepped away from the podium. For 1 second, the crowd made no sound. Then a father in the back began to clap. The noise grew across the chairs. Reporters turned their cameras toward the parents. Lena did not clap. She watched Romeo with her chin raised. He had made promises before cameras. She wanted to see whether they survived after the cameras left. Amanda took the microphone and explained the refund process. Each affected family would receive a written account report within 48 hours. A live phone line would replace the automated billing maze. Parents could also bring receipts to any branch. Lena would have access to the old and new records. No family would be forced to prove the same payment again and again. Questions lasted nearly an hour. One mother asked why the company had believed a computer before a parent. Romeo said the company had built a system that trusted its own data too much. A father asked whether Cameron Capital would pay for work shifts lost because of blocked care. Amanda confirmed that families could submit wage records for review. Another parent asked whether investors had approved the changes. Romeo said investors had been informed, but no investor would decide whether children entered a classroom. The crowd grew smaller as parents left for work. News crews packed their cables. At last, Leonie opened the doors. "Who is coming in?" Cody slipped from Lena's lap before she could answer. He ran through the entrance with his backpack bouncing. A boy inside shouted his name. Zachary Huffman crossed the play area at full speed. The two children met beside a box of blocks and fell to the mat laughing. Their teacher, Emmy LeBlanc, helped them stand. Within seconds, they were building a tower as if the 4 days apart had never happened. Lena watched through the window. Cody could forget quickly. He was 4. Safety returned when the door opened and his friend called his name. Lena had lost more than 4 mornings. She had lost wages, a job, and the belief that records could protect her. Romeo waited until most people had left. Then he approached her near the window. He asked for 1 minute. "That depends on what it is for." Romeo held one printed page. He said Cameron Capital needed someone who understood what policies looked like from the front desk. The company would create a family advocate role across Bright Steps. The person would review billing disputes, help branches solve care problems, and report outside the collections team. Leonie had suggested Lena before Romeo did. Lena asked whether the position already existed. Romeo said no. That made her cautious. Jobs created after public scandals often disappeared when attention moved on. Romeo explained that the position would have a written salary, benefits, childcare, training, and a direct reporting line. It would not require a college degree. Lena read every line. She had run a register and stocked shelves. She had no office title. Romeo said she had kept proof, challenged a false record, and refused a quiet favor. Those skills were the reason for the offer. "I want the reporting line in writing," Lena said. "If this becomes decoration, I walk." Romeo agreed. She asked for 1 night to consider it. He gave her the page and said the choice belonged to her. Before leaving, Lena looked toward the empty podium. "You did the right thing," she said. "That is all. The right thing. Late." Romeo accepted the words. Late was better than never. It was still worse than on time. Lena accepted the job the next morning. She did not call Romeo. She called Leonie. "What are the hours? Who trains me? Where is Cody while I work?" Leonie answered each question. Bright Steps would cover Cody's care at Fairfield, and Lena could train there before taking some duties downtown. "The reporting line is written exactly as you asked," Leonie said. "Nobody in collections can change your findings." Lena signed on Monday. Her first week did not begin with a private office. It began at a folding table beside Leonie's desk. Boxes of disputed accounts covered the floor. Parents had brought receipts after the public meeting. Some were old, faded, or bent from being carried in wallets. Lena read each one. She found a family charged after moving to another branch. She found twins listed under one account, with one payment placed against the wrong child. A mother had been billed a supply fee twice. Another parent lost a discount promised in writing before the sale. The errors were not all caused by the migration. Some were simple mistakes. Others came from new rules designed without asking branch workers what they needed. Lena created a basic review sheet. It asked what the parents said, what the branch record showed, and what proof existed in the old system. Most important, it asked whether the child was still receiving care during the dispute. The answer had to remain yes. Clerk worked beside her for several days. She called each affected family personally. At the start of every call, Clerk said the same thing. "You were right. I am calling to say you were right. Some parents accepted the correction. Others spoke for a long time about lost wages and fear. Clerk listened. Lena made notes. The company returned duplicate payments within 10 days. Wage claims took longer because Amanda required proof that could survive review. Romeo wanted speed. Lena wanted the corrections to last. She told him weak records would allow future managers to deny what had been promised. He accepted the delay and added staff to the work. The fresh market also became part of the review. Romeo did not buy the store or threaten its owners. Amanda shared the daycare findings and asked the company to review Lena's firing. The store checked video, attendance records, and Curtis's public conduct. The company offered Lena her old job and lost wages. I will not return, Lena said. Change the record so this firing cannot follow me. Pay what I lost. That is enough. The store agreed. Curtis received formal discipline and management training. He was not dragged before cameras. Lena said public humiliation would not become justice merely because the target changed. Romeo remembered that sentence. 2 weeks after the press event, Cameron Capital's investment committee reviewed the Bright Steps changes. Collections had fallen during the first days because the automatic block was gone. Gordon's former team used that fact to argue that mercy weakened control. Lena attended by video from Fairfield. Cody was in class down the hall. This is not a mercy report, she said. It is a retention report. She showed that parents with payment plans stayed enrolled. Families who received quick corrections were less likely to leave. Several parents canceled withdrawals after the public meeting. New inquiries also rose where directors explained the new rule. Trust has value, even if the old spreadsheet ignored it. Thalia Irwin supported the changes. Amanda confirmed that the legal claims were under control because the company had disclosed the problem and paid families quickly. Brianna Orr sent a message from Meridian. The pension trust would keep its commitment while watching future results. The investor obstacle did not vanish. It changed shape. Romeo could no longer promise only higher margins. He had to prove that a company serving families could earn money without using children as pressure. The board approved a new policy after 3 hours. No child could be denied because of a billing dispute or short-term family debt. Payment plans had to be offered before collections began. Any system transfer required a review of cash and manual records. Branch directors would test new software before a chain-wide launch. A family advocate had the power to stop any policy that threatened access to care while under review. The policy carried Romeo's signature. This time, he read every page. He also required each partner at the table to read it aloud in sections. Nobody laughed at the rule. Page 38 received more attention than page 1. Lena's first direct report reached Romeo on Friday. It listed 7 corrected accounts, 3 open wage claims, and 1 branch still pressuring parents before entry. Romeo called to thank her. Do not thank me for my job, Lena said. Approve 2 more support workers before the next billing change. You have them. That answer ended the call. By the end of the month, every Bright Steps branch had a named worker for payment disputes. Parents received a person's name instead of a menu of robot choices. The company also restored branch access to account details. Directors could see why a balance appeared and where a payment went. Leonie no longer emailed an empty head office address. When she raised a problem, Lena answered. Cody adjusted faster than the adults. He returned to his place beside Zachary. He stopped asking whether he was allowed to enter. On the first Monday of Lena's new job, he carried the paper Sun back to class. It had been bent since the morning at the door. Emmy helped him tape it to the classroom wall. Lena saw it during pickup. She stood beneath it for a moment. The paper was still creased. It did not need to be made perfect to remain worth keeping. Romeo visited Fairfield at the end of Lena's 4th week. He did not bring cameras or an event team. A small metal sign now hung where the zero tolerance notice had been. No child is ever turned away over a debt. Below that, smaller words told families to speak with the branch. The company would work out a plan. A phone number appeared at the bottom. It rang at Lena's desk. Romeo stood in the lobby and read the sign twice. Clerk looked up from the counter. She still became nervous when he entered. Romeo told her to continue working. She had spent 4 weeks repairing accounts one call at a time. People at the top had written the rule. Workers below should not carry all the blame for obeying it. Through the classroom window, Cody and Zachary sat in a circle with 8 other children. They sang loudly and missed half the words. Lena came down the hall wearing her family advocate badge. She handed Romeo another report. A branch in the next state added a fee that is not in policy. How much? $15. A month earlier, Romeo might have called that too small for his attention. Now he understood that small fees could become large harms when repeated everywhere. Now he opened the report before leaving the lobby. 3 months later, the quarterly Bright Steps report reached the board. Revenue had not collapsed. Enrollment had increased at 26 branches. Families stayed longer when billing problems were handled by people instead of automatic threats. The fund still earned money. It simply stopped using a child's classroom as collection pressure. Meridian kept its investment. Brianna Orr sent Romeo one short message. "We can point at this." Amanda printed the message and placed it beside her computer. Thalia used the Fairfield case in every new policy review. Gordon never returned to the company. His old office became a meeting room for branch directors and family support staff. Romeo placed the original approval page on the wall facing his desk. Visitors could not see it. He could. The 2 signatures reminded him that distance did not remove responsibility. A person could cause harm without raising his voice, entering a branch, or learning a child's name. Sometimes harm arrived through a clean document and one unread line. Lena did not become rich. That had never been the promise. She earned a steady salary, received health coverage, and no longer counted coins before boarding the bus. Her rent was paid on time. She also kept the shoebox of receipts. Whenever a new manager suggested that the system was probably right, Lena placed the box on the table. It reminded them why proof mattered and why parents had to be heard. One Friday evening, Lena left the Fairfield branch holding Cody's hand. Her work badge still hung around her neck. Cody talked about a caterpillar in his class. He wanted to know whether it understood that it would become a butterfly. Lena said it probably did not need to know everything at once. It only needed food, time, and a safe place to grow. They reached the same bus stop where she had once made 3 failed calls. The bench had not changed. Her life had. The bus arrived. Lena did not count coins or check a warning from work. Cody climbed the steps and waved through the window at Zachary. Lena followed him inside. They went home together, safe, with no false balance waiting in the mailbox. Romeo visited the branch the next morning. He stood near the front desk while families entered. Nobody was stopped. A father mentioned that his payment would be 2 days late. Clerk opened a payment plan and welcomed his daughter inside. The new rule took less than a minute to use. No child cried. No parent became a public example. Romeo looked at the metal sign one more time. He had once believed power meant being able to end a problem with one order. Fairfield had taught him something harder. Power also meant admitting who had created the problem, even when the answer was written in your own hand. The real test came during the 4th month. A billing update marked 12 accounts as incomplete at a branch in another state. Under the old rule, 12 children would have reached the door before anyone checked the cause. This time, the branch director called Lena before opening. Lena compared the new records with the old system. A discount code had expired during the update. The families did not owe the added amounts. She stopped the notices, corrected the code, and sent each parent a written report before breakfast. No child knew there had been a problem. Romeo learned about the error from Lena's weekly report. There was no news camera, angry meeting, or public speech. That made the result more important. A good system did not wait for a billionaire to witness a child crying. It found the mistake before the child reached the counter. Romeo called Lena after reading the report. "Nothing happened at the door," he said. "That is the point," Lena answered. "Children should not need a public disaster before adults do their jobs." Romeo wrote that sentence at the top of the next board agenda. Cameron Capital began using a new question in every company review. Leaders still studied profit, staffing, debt, and growth. They also had to explain who carried the harm when a rule failed. The answer could not be a department name. It had to include real people. At Bright Steps, the answer was often a parent missing work, a teacher losing trust, or a child believing the locked door was his fault. That question changed other decisions. A meal company stopped charging families before correcting delivery errors. A clinic added human review before canceling appointments over disputed bills. Romeo did not claim one daycare. Morning had made him a different man. Change was not proved by one apology. It was proved by the next contract, the next report, and the next page that would once have received only a quick signature. He read those pages now. Sometimes he still made the wrong choice. Lena still challenged him when he did. Their working relationship never became soft. It became useful. She did not protect his pride. He stopped asking her to. That was how the correction lasted after the story left the news. The work became ordinary, which meant success. Romeo's signature was on the policy that humiliated Lena and cost her job. He later admitted the truth, erased every false debt, and changed the whole chain.
Page 38 was never skipped again. Comment your thoughts and subscribe to Malric Coleman for more hard-earned justice.